Hello everyone, I'm 10 Ways to Spoil Dinner, and I have a secret to tell you. I love Metroid. I love Metroid a lot. I don't know if you knew that or if you've never heard me gush about Metroid before, but I really do love this series. It's shaped the way I view games for the better half of 2 decades, from playing Super Metroid on the SNES to Metroid Prime 3 on the Wii. To say that I love Metroid is kind of an understatement, really. I'm obsessed. That's why it's my privilege to bring you reviews for every game in one of Nintendo's best franchises. So let's kick back, relax, and review every game in the Metroid canon. Minus Prime Hunters, because I don't have that game and I'm not playing it on an emulator. And Prime Pinball. It is a pinball game. There's your review. So without further ado, I give you MetroidMania. We start our journey with the original NES classic, Metroid. Produced in 1986 by Gunpei Yokoi and directed by Yoshio Sakamoto, the original Metroid was an oddity among platformers at the time. It introduced concepts that were uncommon in games of that era, such as moving left. Yeah, most platforming games in the late 80s took a page from Mario's book, just moving from left to right. Then Metroid came in, sat its feet up on the table and said, "Screw that, I can move left if I want to." The game became a classic, selling well over 2.5 million units. But I've never really played Metroid. I didn't grow up with an NES. I grew up with a Super Nintendo, an N64, and then a GameCube. My first experience with the series was Super Metroid, and then later Metroid Prime. The first time I played the NES Metroid was when I bought Zero Mission, the game's oddly named remake. Because seriously, the hell's a Zero Mission? After you beat that game, the original Metroid is unlocked for you to play, and so as a young child, I played it. And I died. I died a lot. But I'm older now, more experienced, a battle-hardened Metroid veteran, if you will. I'm now fully prepared to delve into this classic and experience its nostalgic goodness. Although, I guess it isn't really nostalgic for me, so just its goodness. First, let's talk about its story, because it's a pretty simple one. You're a bounty hunter. You're here to kill aliens. Sakamoto, stop, you're killing me with this complex storyline. It's actually a bit more complex than that, but on the NES, complex storylines were kind of hard to get across. The story was detailed more in the game's booklet, but I don't have that. Luckily, I know the game's story pretty well by now. You play as Samus Aran, the most badass and super masculine manly man dude to ever have a Y chromosome. Oh, Samus is a woman? Huh, never would have guessed that from playing all those other Metroid games. Weird. As a child, Samus's home planet was destroyed by space pirates, with her mother being killed right in front of her eyes by the pirate commander / space dragon, Ridley. Because of this, Samus has a deep hatred for the space pirates and was orphaned. She was eventually taken in by the alien race known as the Chozo, who helped turn Samus into the badass bounty hunter that she is today. Eventually, the space pirates decided to invade the Chozo homeworld and set up shop so they can breed a parasitic life form the Chozo had created, known as Metroids, which suck out life energy. Now, I might not have grown up with this game, but that description alone sells me on it. I mean, bounty hunters, aliens, space pirates. That's like the Triforce of science fiction badass. So Samus, the esteemed bounty huntress extraordinaire, is tasked with hunting down the space pirates by the Galactic Federation. She must kill the 2 pirate commanders, Kraid and Ridley, destroy the Metroid Menace, and destroy the Mother Brain, an artificial intelligence created by the Chozo that went turncoat and joined the pirates. Now that we've got the story out of the way, let's get into the actual game. The world is split into several sections, which you can travel through via elevator. The starting area is a system of caves called Brinstar, which can be considered a hub of sorts, as it is the central area of the game being used to travel between sectors of Zebes. You also have Norfair, an area containing a ton of fire and maze-like mapping, as well as the 2 boss layers for Ridley and Kraid. Finally, you have Torian, the final area of the game where Mother Brain is hiding with the Metroids. You can't reach Torian until after you defeat both the bosses, though, so we won't be seeing it for a while. You start off in the middle of a room, and like I said earlier, you can move to the left. And doing so is required as you're going to need the pickup over there, the Morphing Ball. This iconic ability of Samus's allows her to curl up inside a ball and pass through small holes. Most people I know always ask, how is Samus able to fit inside that ball? Isn't that too tiny for a person? But I think those people are asking the wrong questions. What they should be asking is, why is the Metroid universe so full of perfectly shaped, morph ball-sized holes? I guess the Chozo put them there. The game's a platformer, so you spend most of your time moving from platform to platform, dodging enemies. The game is brutal in its enemy placement, sometimes cruelly placing enemies in spots where you simply aren't given the time to dodge. Adding to that is the fact that Samus can only shoot left, right, or up.
You can't shoot down, and you can't shoot diagonally. So if you're falling down a long passageway, there's always a chance that you'll land on top of an enemy taking damage.
This game can be extremely challenging, and you will likely die, just like I did as a kid, a lot.
I still die a lot, even after years of playing Metroid games. I died more recording for this game than I've died playing any other game in the series. And the worst part is, this. Whenever you spawn, you only have 30 points of health. It doesn't matter how many energy tanks you acquire, you always spawn with 30. This means you have to grind for health whenever you die, which can be tiresome and boring. Then there's the passwords. While the Japanese Famicom version of Metroid had a save system, the American and European releases of the game do not, and instead give you these long passwords to put in. I can't imagine how awful it was playing this as a kid in the 80s. I didn't grow up with that many password-reliant games because by the time the SNES came out, most games used the save system. The upside, though, are the special passwords, like Justin Bailey and Our Password, which let you play as Samus Outsider's suit and give you invincibility, respectively. If you can avoid dying long enough, you'll find that at the beginning of the game, you're woefully under-equipped for this mission. Your starting weapon in this game is a pea shooter that can't shoot farther than just a few feet in front of you. I have no idea how Samus completed any of her past missions with this gun. Has she never had a target that could just stand a few feet away from her? The beam just dissipates.
Luckily, there are upgrades for the beam, including an upgrade to shoot further distances that were left behind by the Chozo. These upgrades also include an ice beam to freeze enemies, and a wave beam to shoot through walls. I'd suggest you stick with the ice beam though. It's needed near the end of the game, and you can only have one at a time. Plus, the ability to turn your enemies into platforms is pretty useful. There are also other upgrades on the planet, including bombs for your morph ball, the Variety suit, which adds to your defenses, the high jump boots, which, as you probably guessed, make you jump higher, the screw attack, which gives Samus a super somersault to assault her enemies with, and a plethora of missile and energy tank upgrades.
In addition to being an overall difficult game, Metroid is also an extremely confusing one. The hallways are long, repetitive, and chock full of monsters. Because the game doesn't have a map feature like later games in the series do, you'll often find yourself getting lost. This can be frustrating as you won't be making any progress, and you'll probably also be dying. This is a game where an online or printed map would be useful. I definitely recommend it.
Speaking of getting lost, we should probably start navigating our way through this maze of a planet so we can complete our mission. First, since I always prefer to keep Ridley as a later boss, we're gonna go after Kraid.
And boy is he... small. Wow.
Kraid must have been feeling inadequate after this game and started bulking up because here he's just tiny.
But he does pack a punch. Of course. This means I need to grind for health. But this time for sure, I will kill him. But maybe I can get that energy tank. Oh, never mind. Bad idea. You know what? I'm just gonna run into Kraid and blast his face full of missiles. Once you've killed a boss, you're given 75 missiles. I'm not really sure why. I actually felt like I had too many missiles by the end of the game. But I guess that's just a nitpick. I mean, you end up with a ton of missiles in every other Metroid game too, but then again, those are never really just given to you in large quantities. With Kraid out of the way, it's time for us to fight Ridley. Getting through Norfair can be challenging, but once you're in Ridley's lair itself, it's actually almost straightforward. However, you need to be careful with all of the lava. You'll take a lot of damage if you fall in, and with the game's enemy placement, it's almost guaranteed. What's worse is that you might actually get stuck like I did here. It took me 15 seconds to get out, and while it didn't do a whole lot of damage, it's still irritating. The actual fight with Ridley is easy, especially compared to Kraid. I beat Ridley in my first try, in fact. I'd actually recommend fighting him first given the ease, but it just doesn't feel right to kill Ridley before Kraid after all these years. Now that both pirate commanders are taken care of, we can move on to our next objective, which is clearing out the Metroid infestation. Back in Brinstar, you'll find a room with Ridley and Kraid statues. A bridge will form there that lets you enter Torian, and soon you will descend into the belly of the beast.
Oh god, Metroids! What am I gonna do? It's right on my face! I don't wanna die! It's gonna suck out my life! Oh, right. Ice beam.
Yeah, just shoot the Metroids with your ice beam and then blast them with 5 missiles. They're actually kind of a cakewalk to fight given the build-up.
I guess we should just be glad that these Metroids are small and weak and not like giant with claws or something. That would be horrifying. The only real challenge in Toyin are these damn Rinkas. They fire at a near constant rate and they don't drop any health or missiles. The best thing you could do is just freeze them, because that keeps more from spawning. After a few rooms of Metroid, you finally arrive at Mother Brain. However, she's being protected by these shields that you have to blow up with missiles. You have to be quick though, because they regenerate. You also have to dodge more frickin' Rinkas. God, I hate these things! Once you finally destroy the barriers, you find Mother Brain, who is probably one of the laziest final bosses in video game history. She literally just sits there and takes your missiles. Sure, there's Rinkas, and they are dangerous enough to kill you if you aren't careful, but Mother Brain herself does absolutely nothing. I mean, the least she could do is shoot some lasers, or maybe grow a body and attack, but no, she does nothing. Let's just kill her and be on our way. And here begins the Metroid tradition of timed escape sequences. I know, I wouldn't have taken Mother Brain as such a sore loser either. She seemed so laid back in her jar, but here we are. This isn't too difficult though, you just need to time your jumps well, but I will admit that the music and timer do make me feel a little nervous. For an NES game, I think that's a really great accomplishment. Great, you fulfilled your mission. Right, I almost forgot about how bad English translations were in old games. Huh. But here we are. We've beaten Metroid, defeated the Space Pirates, and created peace in space. For now, for, as the game says, someday we may be invaded by the other Metroid. Whatever that means. But who cares? We beat the game! And does it hold up? Kind of? There's no doubt that the game's legacy is well earned, as it is the building block on which all future Metroid games are based. It introduced many of the concepts for which the series are known, including the Morph Ball, Screw Attack, escape sequences, Ridley, and Mother Brain. But the game also hasn't aged very well. The controls are stiff, enemy placement is cruel, and there are some questionable game mechanics. Compared to most NES games I've seen, this is definitely one of the better ones, but I also can't claim to be particularly knowledgeable about NES-era games. Maybe I've been spoiled by later games in the series. Metroid isn't bad by any means. It's an important piece of gaming history, but unless you're looking for the full Metroid experience, there just isn't much reason to play this game now that its remake exists. I'm glad I played it, but I probably won't again. Let's just hope that its sequels fare better, because next time we're going to be looking at Metroid 2, Return to Samus for the Game Boy. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked this video, blah blah, blah blah blah, blah blah blah. And don't forget the blah.